Hello, everyone. Welcome to Celsius 233, your go-to place for fiction book summaries. Today, we will embark on a journey through the Bohemians of the Latin Quarter by Henri Murger. Bohemians of the Latin Quarter, originally Scènes de la Vie de Bohème, by Henri Murger, first published in 1849, is a significant literary work that offers a vivid portrayal of Bohemian life in 19th century Paris. The novel explores the experiences of young artists, writers, and musicians who live in poverty while pursuing their creative passions. Murger, having lived this lifestyle himself, presents a humorous yet poignant look at the romanticism and hardships faced by Bohemians in the Latin Quarter. This book is often credited with establishing the archetype of the struggling artist, and its influence has been widely felt in literature and the arts, most notably inspiring Giacomo Puccini's opera La Bohème. Plot summary. On an early April morning, the sun streamed into the small garret of Alexander Schaunard, an eccentric musician and painter, waking him from his sleep. He was surrounded by the remnants of a bohemian lifestyle, unpaid bills, a makeshift bed, and his beloved piano, the only sign of his artistic pursuit. The harsh reality of an eviction notice looming over him forced him into action. He had only hours to gather 75 francs to pay his landlord, Monsieur Bernard, and avoid being cast out onto the streets. Schaunard's method for survival was as unconventional as the man himself. He danced, sang, and played his piano in a frenzy, hoping for inspiration to strike like lightning. Eventually, he resigned himself to venture into the city to try his luck and ingenuity in raising the money. Schaunard's day of hustling through Paris was a reflection of the unpredictable life he led. He had long mastered the art of borrowing money, with an elaborate system of friends and acquaintances from whom he could extract small sums to keep him afloat. His method was precise, noting when his friends might have a few spare coins, but this day his efforts yielded a meager 3 francs. Desperate, he roamed the streets, trying to find shelter for the night, and decided that if all else failed, he would rely on the unpredictable kindness of fate. While Schaunard wandered, a young painter named Marcel moved into Schaunard's soon-to-be-vacated apartment. Marcel, whose ambitions were as grand as his talent, arrived with only painted theater backdrops and a bare easel, his only possessions of value. His past love affair with the flirtatious musette had left him both heartbroken and driven, though his art never seemed to sell. After moving in, Marcel spent much of his time in melancholy reflection, often thinking of Musette, who had left him for a wealthier man. Rodolphe, a poet whose imagination knew no limits, was another close friend in their bohemian circle. Rodolphe's love life was as dramatic as his writings, and his affair with a young woman named Mimi was a tempestuous one. They were both passionate and idealistic, but the realities of poverty created cracks in their relationship. Despite their love, their struggles to survive often led to bitter arguments and separations. Still, Rodolphe's heart was ever hopeful, and he wrote poetry in honor of Mimi, idealizing her as his muse. Yet, beneath this romanticized veneer, both knew their life together was hanging by a thread. Another member of their bohemian group, Colin, was a philosopher who owned nothing but books. His passion for intellectual pursuits and his philosophical musings kept him apart from the material world. His coat pockets bulged with manuscripts and old volumes he could not part with, even if it meant going without food. Colin's spirit, however, was always buoyant, content to live in poverty as long as his mind remained rich with ideas. The group of friends often gathered in cafes, enjoying each other's company and discussing their artistic dreams over cheap wine. They were always short of money but rich in camaraderie, lifting each other's spirits in times of despair. Marcel, Rodolphe, Schaunard, and Colin lived in a world of contrasts, between their boundless artistic ambitions and the harsh reality of hunger, cold, and unpaid rent. Yet they faced these hardships with humor and defiance, finding moments of joy even in the smallest victories, such as when they managed to pay for a meal or keep a roof over their heads for another month. As winter settled in, their lives took on an even more desperate tone. Mimi, whose health had begun to decline, often took refuge with Rodolphe, but their happiness was short-lived. Rodolphe, aware of his inability to provide for her, suggested they part ways for the sake of her well-being. Mimi, though heartbroken, agreed, and their parting was filled with sorrow as both knew they still loved each other deeply, but could not continue to live together in such dire circumstances. Meanwhile, Marcel and Musette's relationship also took another turn. Musette, ever the free spirit, returned to Marcel after leaving her wealthier lover, claiming she could not live without him. Their reunion was passionate, but like all their past encounters, it was riddled with jealousy and fights. Musette, who loved the finer things in life, found it difficult to adapt to Marcel's life of poverty. Their love, like that of Rodolphe and Mimi, was vibrant but doomed by the brutal hand of poverty. As the year wore on, Mimi's health worsened and Rodolphe's despair grew. Their friends, aware of her fragile state, rallied around them, but there was little they could do. The small group of Bohemians faced their own financial crises and could only offer companionship. Mimi and Rodolphe reunited, unable to stay apart any longer, but it was clear that her time was running out. In the final days of her illness, surrounded by her friends, Mimi passed away, leaving Rodolphe devastated but resigned to his fate. The story closes with the Bohemians continuing their struggle. Life in the Latin Quarter carries on, with new love affairs, new struggles, and the same pursuit of art and happiness amidst the hardships of life. They live in a world where hope and despair coexist, where love is as fleeting as their moments of success, but where they remain determined to chase their dreams, no matter the cost. That's it for now. If you enjoyed this, check out other books by Henri Murger. You'll find them in the description or just search for them on Celsius 233. Remember, while our summaries capture the essence, they can never replace the full experience of reading the book. If this summary intrigued you, consider diving into the complete story, buy the book, and immerse yourself in Henri Murger's original work. Bye-bye, take care, have fun.